Welcome to not making sense of money. That's our podcast. This is Get Savvy, Grow Your Green Stuff webinar series. This is our money, stress, and bad habits webinar. We are going to record this today. So anyone that needs to drop off at any point during our webinar, go ahead. We will send the recording to all of our registrants. But we have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. My name is Andrew Pellegrini, and I run the Student Money Management Center out of University of Illinois Systems Bursar office for Urbana, Chicago, and Springfield campuses. So I have a lot of people that I'm trying to reach. And normally I'm in Urbana, but sometimes I also travel to Chicago and Springfield. And I'm joined by my colleague, Nikki. Nikki, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Nikki Jankola Shanks, and I am the Policy Director for Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. And we're excited to be here.
Thank you, Nikki. So, collectively, the Get Savvy webinar team represents organizations across the state of Illinois, which rest on the ancestral lands of multiple Native nations, including the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankashaw, Wea, Miami, Mascoutin, Ottawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasha nations. And we have a responsibility to acknowledge these Native nations and work with them towards a more vibrant and inclusive society. So, we have one poll today, just a little demographic poll to let us know who's joining us. And hopefully, everyone can see that. It pops up. It is anonymous. We're not going to disclose anything, but if you can share, that's great. If you don't feel like sharing, that's okay. But if we know who is joining us regarding age and kind of your employment status and other factors that can help us modify some of the examples that we'll talk about today to better meet who's here, who's actually joining us today. I know that when we were looking at the registration pool, there was a large variation in age and other demographic variables. But today it looks like there's a lot of people between 25 and 34 joining us, but there's everyone between ages 18 and 74 that's joining us, which is a very broad age range. Stress impacts all of us, so that makes sense. There's a lot of students, but there's more full-time employees. You might be both. I'm both. So you can select multiple options there. Um, we have a lot of women on today, and we have a pretty diverse ethnicity and race. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'll just share the results real quick so you can see who's joining us. And then we're going to stop sharing. So the few things that we want you to take away from today's webinar, we're going to uh, define the core dimensions of stress, not just financial stress, but stress in general, since they have a relationship with each other. We're going to hope that you understand the relationship between stress and unhealthy habits by the end of today's webinar. We're also going to illustrate how stress can influence our decisions. We have a lot of factors to consider, or that we are unconsciously uh, influencing our decisions when we are making choices, both financial choices and just general choices. We also want you to be able to identify ways to manage stress and financial stress. And we're going to outline potential impacts of proactive self regulation strategies on stress and financial stress. Because we're talking about a sensitive topic today, we wanted to emphasize that this webinar contains information about the stressors of life, and that may potentially lead to risky or counterproductive habits. And this discussion may be concerning for some people, it may be upsetting for some of our participants, but we're going to share resources in the chat and through the follow up email for registrants to help yourself or a family member that might be impacted by some of the stress or bad habits that we discussed today. So my colleague Kobena is sharing the resources in the chat for university resources for well-being. Urbana and Chicago and Springfield all have counseling centers as well as wellness centers and rec centers to help with managing stress, as well as talking to someone if you need professional help regarding stress management or anxiety. There are also a lot of mental health crisis resources at the state level. So we're providing the Illinois Department of Central Management Services crisis resources there. So there's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the Crisis Text Line, there's ComPsych support, and other resources at that website that might be helpful for you. And I'm going to hand it over to Nikki to talk about stress and its impacts in general.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. We'll go ahead and get started on this section. So, we're going to really talk about what stress is and how you may feel that. So, the first is that there are three main categories of stress: acute stress, episodic acute stress, and chronic. So, just some general examples. Acute stress, it's very short term. It comes and it goes very quickly. It doesn't always mean something bad either. So for example, could be something good, like maybe you're getting married and that's a good thing, but it's also stressful. Maybe you're getting ready to graduate, which is a good thing and stressful, right? So that's acute stress. Episodic acute stress is when you experience that it's repeated. You never really get time. You regularly experience that acute stress that I was just talking about, and you never have time to regain your feeling. You never get time to be in a calm state. So an example of this is like healthcare workers. They are constantly on shift, and especially like during the pandemic and things like that, episodic acute stress would apply to them. And then there's chronic stress. So this is long-term stress. Um, and long-term means months, weeks, years even of stress. And some examples of that may be marriage troubles, work issues, or as we're talking about today, financial problems are often more chronic stress. And then I think we can all here pretty much acknowledge that no matter what type of stressful situation you're in, there could be a physiological. Andrea, help me out.
Physiological.
Thank you.
Physiological. Yeah.
Physiological, but a physical type of reaction, which it can include um, your muscle tense. I know personally my shoulders get really tense. Your stomach may be upset. Your heart may experience stress in different ways. So, um, like your blood pressure, right? So, depending on the type of stress, right, um, it may impact you in different ways, but there is that physical response to stress as well. So, just to give you guys a little bit, Americans are very stressed. So, this is um, the 2024 annual American Psychiatric Association's mental health poll. So, and it clearly lays out that adults are increasingly stressed or anxious. So, we're up from 2023 to 2024. 43% of Americans feel more anxious. 70% report feeling anxious about current events, and 77 report feeling stressed about the economy, which obviously relates to finances. So go ahead and use the chat feature in Zoom to answer this question. What are some common behaviors, either could be good behaviors, bad habits, whatever, that we engage in to relieve stress?
And these don't have to be what you personally do to relieve stress. It could be just things you know that people in general do to try to relieve stress. Could be good, it could be bad, whatever you think people are commonly doing to relieve stress.
Eat, drink, zone out, alcohol, exercise, shop. Yeah. And we're going to kind of talk about, we're going to touch on all of those that you guys just kind of said right there. Listen,
Exercise is popular. Yeah.
reading, walking, sleep. Yes. All right. So, um, there are two buckets of coping behaviors in order to manage stress: adaptive and maladaptive, otherwise known as healthy and unhealthy. So, some healthy is self care, like a lot of you guys mentioned, from exercise, watching movies, um, reading a book, etc. There's also problem solving, asking for help, emotional regulation, reframing in your mind what's happening. And then unhealthy, which is a lot what you guys also said, right? Substance abuse, avoidance, that zoning out, denial, emotional eating, shopping also um, would be in there too if it's excessive. So then what are the benefits of this healthy coping? A lot of the healthy coping, again, those exercises, meditation, things like that, it reduces your stress and improves your overall well-being and helps increase problem solving skills, promotes healthy relationships, social connections. But the consequences of unhealthy coping means that you're increasing your stress or just anxiety. You're going to have those physical issues, mental health issues, and you could perpetuate this cycle of unhealthy coping behaviors. And as that relates to finances, somebody did say shopping, right? Like you could just get into this cycle that we're going to talk about. So when we are doing these coping behaviors, whether they're good or bad, right? What we're actually trying to do is regulate our emotions. But bad counterproductive habits that we choose to do to try to get calm can cause further harm. So this could be self-medicating, like we talked about, high risk behaviors, eating too much or too little, over emotions, and then compulsive behaviors. This is again the gambling, sex with strangers, shopping, substance abuse. Overworking is also some compulsive behavior. Um, so, and basically all of these will then compound um, and can lead to financial stress, which makes these unhealthy coping behaviors worse. Doom scrolling. This is the act of just constantly looking through social media news feeds on topics that are tragic. And there are, the result of doom scrolling is increased anxiety. And there are some people who are particularly vulnerable to doom scrolling, and that is women and people with a history of trauma. So basically our limbic system or reptilian brain is searching for threats or danger by doom scrolling, and one of the goals is to gain a sense of some type of control over your life, over the news that you're reading. But most people will say, right, doom scrolling doesn't actually help ease your stress or calm your anxiety, but yet we as humans continue to do it. So what does all this mean between money and stress? So this can be very cyclical. You kind of create a cycle. You are stressed, so then you make poor financial decisions. That can lead to things like decision fatigue. Like you're just sick and tired of having to make these decisions. This is especially true with people who are in lower income groups. And then, so you stress, then spend. So maybe you engage in retail therapy to cope with the stress. And then because of that, you're taking on more debt, or you're delaying other financial goals that you have for yourself in order to do that retail therapy, which then creates financial stress, which compounds the problem. Um, and if you are engaging in other non-productive habits in excess, you can delay reaching those financial goals that you've set out for yourself. You could also be increasing your basic needs insecurity, and your economic vulnerability, which obviously would also lead to financial stress. So if you're spending money on these bad habits, on compulsive behaviors, right? And then that may temporarily give you a little bit of relief, but then they produce financial stress and worry. So this is how this cycle continues. And I am now going to pass it back over to Andrea to talk about the influences on financial stress.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikki. All right, so I am going to put it again in the chat. What do you think influences consumers' choices? Whether it's just making a shopping decision or making a longer term kind of financial decision, what do you think influences our choices as consumers? And this could be internal kind of influences, or it could be external influences. One person said family, financial socialization. Our parents have a lot to do with our attitudes towards money, how we approach things. We get advice from our family and friends. Somebody said advertising, peer and media pressure, sales. Yes, marketing is very popular. All right. Keep them coming. Emotional and mental state, money or access to money, right? More money means you have more choices, which can also lead to um, being kind of overwhelmed with the amount of choices that we have. A lot of social media, false economy, okay. So keep them coming. We're going to try to keep moving forward since got a lot to cover. So there are a lot of different forces trying to persuade you to spend money. External forces, as well as our internal capacity to pull back our impulses. Right? There are lots of things that impact our decision making. And when you think about all these sources, marketers, advertisers, social media influencers, even food scientists and consumer psychologists to do research on consumer behaviors or eating behaviors or tastes of things. Algorithms are built in a way to maintain our attention. So it keeps us doom scrolling. It might keep us in a cycle of uh, seeing advertisements for the same thing that pulls our ability to restrict impulses a little bit. Social media, pop-up notifications, all those things are external pressures on our decisions. And to combat some of the urge to overspend, we need to question the motivations of other people that may be trying to convince us to spend, like what we've highlighted with marketers, advertisers, influencers. Typically, our family, we think that they have our best interests in mind, but we're the only ones that have the best perspective on all of the factors that we care about when it comes to a consumer choice. So, compensatory consumption is a concept that refers to the consumption behavior which aims at coping with psychological deficit or threat. So, a core theme of consumer behavior research is that people consume a product or a service not only for its function, but also for its signaling value or its role in representing our values. So, for example, we might choose to buy a certain type of car because the car says something about what we value. Maybe we want to buy a high emission or a low emissions car or a electric vehicle because we care about the environment and we want to show to the world that's one of our values, right? It can also have to do with status as well. So that's one area of research that we've pulled into today's webinar. We talked about doom scrolling. Nikki talked about doom scrolling a little bit. Doom spending is similar. It's been increasing in the past several years. So it's not exactly a new phenomenon, but it is something that more people are doing. So, according to a report by creditcards.com, 1 in 5 Americans say they are doom spending, like they're purchasing items excessively or impulsively in response to fears or anxiety about future events. And it may not be a logical kind of choice. We had an increase in the amount of people buying toilet paper when the pandemic first started, right? We think of that as like a logical kind of expense. But it might be like retail therapy to buy shoes because they don't see a point in future thinking about the future, right? There are different ways to approach doom spending, or interpret it. So, and there's a lot of reasons why people are increasing the amount of doom spending that they are engaging in. But when we engage in doom spending or retail therapy to cope with stress, it can have additional risks, like Nikki alluded to earlier with the cyclical relationship between overall stress and financial stress. So, like we talked about earlier, stress and finances have this cyclical relationship because increased spending can lead to increased debt and lower savings rates. On top of that, inflation has been high over the past couple years, meaning increased costs to both survive and engage in stress spending. And then right now, credit card debt is over $1 trillion and saving rates have declined since the peak pandemic in 2020 hit a record high. So increased debt can delay your reaching financial goals and it can lower savings rates, making being prepared for emergencies, those emergency funds, much more difficult. Um, and when you're thinking about emergency savings, there's been a lot of research on people being able to save for a surprise expense, and only 63% of 18 to 64-year-old Americans could cover a $400 surprise expense without borrowing or selling something that they own, according to the Federal Reserve. So, if you're thinking, like, I don't have enough money to make an emergency fund, even a $400 emergency fund can be helpful. And for the most economically vulnerable, like we talked about earlier, increased spending and lower saving rates can have more extreme risks. So we need to think about that as well. Um, all right, so we have these triggers for financial stress or these coping mechanisms can lead to financial stress. But financial stress is more than just worry about money. It involves a psychophysiological response. I'm having trouble too. Nikki. A psychophysiological response to managing financial resources and can result from financial or economic events either within or outside of a person's control. You don't always have control over what happens to you when it comes to economic resources. And then it creates anxiety or worry or a sense of scarcity, which impacts your decision making and your behavior. And chronic financial stress is ongoing and it can have a significant impact on your overall well being and your quality of life. So, in thinking about financial stress, there are three dimensions basically. So, the affective dimension identifies that there are stressors that shape our feelings about current financial situations. And it could be represented through things like surprise or crying when it comes to financial stressors. Um, there's the relational dimension, which examines the effect of stress on cognitive and behavioral phenomena within a social context. So, um, this type of dimension acknowledges that the external behaviors you engage in as a result of financial stress can impact your relationships and it can manifest as family conflict or spousal conflict, and that can cause even more issues with other areas of your well-being. And then the physiological dimension acknowledges that financial stressors impact the body, and this can manifest as like things like headaches, high blood pressure, stomach aches, the same thing as general stress. So it does your body doesn't care what the source of the stressor is. It doesn't care if it's financial, doesn't care if it's a threat to your physical safety, your body's probably going to act similarly. And that also impacts how you are able to navigate stressful decisions. So, when it comes to financial stress and mental health, there's a very close relationship there. And it can influence our perspective. So, financial worries and anxiety are negatively related to our overall mental health, and they can trigger negative self perceptions about managing money. So, you might get into a position where you're worried about something that's not financial. You engage in retail therapy, or you're hoarding things you see as necessities, and then it produces a financial stress situation. And then you think, oh, I'm terrible at managing money because of the impact that these bad habits have had on your finances. And it may be that there's another underlying issue that needs to be addressed. But it's hard to do that when you don't have as much confidence in handling those things. Um, but like we said earlier, this financial stress impacts our mental health, our self perceptions, and it can exacerbate existing relationship problems. So we just want to keep that in mind when we're thinking about the impacts of financial stress. All right, so let's talk about the financial decision making part. We've kind of identified stress in general, how it has an impact on financial stress, what financial stress is, and how it impacts the other areas of well-being, like our relationships or our quality of life or our mental health. But let's get a little bit into the behavioral economics of it. Um, Behavioral economics is an interdisciplinary field leveraging human psychology to explain deviations from rational decision making. And this is the basis of traditional economic theory. So, if you talk to traditional economists, they would assume that all humans make rational decisions when it comes to economics or finances. We know now that's not true. um, the behavioral economics field is helpful in understanding motivations and factors that influence financial behaviors beyond what we would think of as traditionally logical. And it also demonstrates that cognitive biases, we all have cognitive biases, our emotions, and other social influences often lead to irrational financial behaviors. We don't always think the best, especially when we're stressed out. And it's important to acknowledge that that's a normal human condition. So, when it comes to maladaptive financial behaviors explicitly, you might be engaging in impulsive spending, you might be engaging in financial avoidance, you might do increased risk taking or risk aversion. So, for example, you might be too afraid to engage in investing to keep up with inflation. The only way that we can combat the costs of inflation long term is to invest in the stock market. And when you are risk averse and you're not willing to do that, you may be costing yourself long term by keeping all of your savings more liquid at a lower interest rate. On the other side of that, with risk taking, you might be more willing to engage in gambling just in case it could get you out of your financial situation, which again could be cyclical and have negative impacts on your overall well being. Poor financial planning in general might be part of this maladaptive behavior for finances that you engage in, or taking on excessive debt, which we've talked around a little bit before already. All right. So, when you're engaging in these maladaptive financial behaviors, this stress leads to us trying to regain control. When we're increasing savings, maybe consumers are experiencing stress, and then they increase their saving behavior, assuming that the monetary resources they're getting will be available when needed, and it helps provide a sense of control. So that can be a positive um, adaptive behavior. On the other hand, that people may engage in strategic spending on necessities. So, stress can lead to increased spending on products that we perceive as necessities to exert control in an uncontrollable environment. All right. So when we think about financial scarcity and financial avoidance, the financial scarcity piece can lead people to financial avoidance to cope with the stress and negative emotions related to their financial situation. Avoidance can also create a negative cycle leading to increased financial scarcity over time because people aren't paying attention to their bills being due. They might be charged late fees, they might be increasing their overall debt, but they're not aware of it. Recently, we've noticed that there are a lot more people taking advantage of buy now, pay later options, and they're kind of difficult to track. So if you don't have the mental capacity to track a lot of different buy now, pay later programs that you're using to buy things with, it can really increase your financial scarcity over time. Um, Usually people that engage in buying buy now, pay later programs or use um, like pay advance programs, they're already experiencing financial scarcity. Um, and so it's only going to get worse if you aren't are avoiding tracking repayment of those tools. So just keep in mind that when your perceived financial control is low, the tendency to avoid financial information increases quite a bit, which is understandable. We all kind of engage in that behavior, but it also can lead to more harms later, as we've kind of identified. So, stress can also sometimes lead to an increased willingness to save money, as we had kind of already established, as a way to restore control, especially when control over outcomes is really low. When you restore a sense of control through other means like stress spending or other bad habits, it can reduce the desire to save due to stress. So, it seems counterproductive, and it is kind of counterproductive because you're trying to exert control, but then you lose the energy to continue engaging in that behavior. And then when people believe that their attempts to regain control are unlikely to succeed, stress might lead them to less saving and potentially more spending on non necessities. So, for example, you might make a goal to save up for an emergency of $400 by the next 3 months. But emergencies keep happening, and you have to keep dipping into the little that you've been able to save, and you never reach that $400. Then people just stop saving sometimes because they say, there's not a point. I'm going to be in this chronic state of stress all the time. And that can be really depressing as well. So, these maladaptive behaviors that we've been talking about, you may not recognize them as problematic, or you're just starting to think about the cost of them, or maybe you're here because you're trying to help somebody else that's having maladaptive behaviors and you want to help them. Our last webinar was on the stages of change model, which is historically applied to things like treating addiction or mental health concerns. So, if you're looking to learn more about this particular model, the trans theoretical model, and how you can apply it to modify your own behaviors or seek out help or help somebody else, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. We also did a podcast episode on stages of change for Making Sense of Money podcast, which you can listen to on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Spotify. And I'm going to hand it back over to Nikki to figure out some solutions. We need to figure out how to address this stress and our bad habits.
Yes. So, as Andrea said, this next session we'll kind of talk about some strategies to help. So In order to manage the stress and curb the unhealthy habits, we have to find ways to engage in self care that will allow us to recharge our cognitive capacity, refresh our resilience, and prevent unhealthy habits from impacting our future. It will also help us heal from trauma. Just speaking from the um, lieutenant, this is something the lieutenant governor always talks about. If you follow her on social media, she actually has self-care Sundays where she will likes to remind people to make sure that they are taking care of themselves. So mindfulness, these are techniques that can be used to help people reduce stress and improve your overall health. It's been shown to be useful for a variety of um, physical conditions, everything from um, helping cope with depression to substance abuse recovery and pain management, etc. Meditation, um, and somebody had mentioned this earlier in the chat. The meditation's also been proven to show a lot of benefits to curb stress, including reducing your negative emotions, increasing self compassion and patience. It also can teach you how to remain calm in the face of chaos. And when it comes to um, financial stress, a lot of times people feel chaotic, right? If they can't make ends meet or um, afford the food that they need, etc., then it kind of helps you to remain calm, to think through things. And it also provides a different reaction to stress that you may not be used to, that's a little bit healthier. Exercise, this was something that a lot of people brought up. There is that physical effects of exercise on stress reduction, release of endorphins, and which basically improve your mood. There's an actual reduction in stress hormones when you exercise, and it's also been proved to improve sleep and sleep quality. So as much as you sleep, but also how much you sleep, making sure that's actually good sleep and you're resting, which also can help improve stress levels. And then the psychological benefits, reduces anxiety, improves your mood. It also can help you have enhanced cognitive function. Things like memory and concentration can be improved through exercise. And then the behavioral and social benefits of exercise, obviously, if you are part of a group exercise or a group class, team sports, etc., that's going to provide additional opportunities for you to socialize, which can help reduce your feelings of loneliness and increase self-sufficient efficiency. Sorry, I was distracted by efficiency. That's you, if you set and you achieve your financial goals, that can help you enhance self-esteem. So what are types of exercise for stress relief? So there's aerobic exercises, that's things like running, cycling, swimming, even just walking are effective in lowering stress levels. There's yoga and mind body exercises. So yoga, tai chi, pilates, they combine both that physical movement with mindfulness, and that helps promote relaxation and stress reduction. And then strength training has also been associated with reductions in anxiety and depression as well. So strategies for managing that particular financial stress. The first is going to be financial education, developing the financial knowledge and skills. So things like learning about budgeting and credit card management, how to best track your expenses, that can help you navigate financial matters, and it can also prepare you for those financial shocks that Andrea was talking about. A lot of that, like when we talked about doom scrolling, right? That sense of control, much the same way, a financial education, feeling like you have some control over your finances, that you understand them, can help. That proactive financial planning, so this is everything from setting financial goals, and that could be a large goal or a small goal, such as I want to save enough so I can go out for dinner, have a night out with my friends, to I need to buy a car, right? um, Creating that budget and tracking your spending, and also building that financial fund that Andrea mentioned. Then there's conscientious spending. Um, that is also that's you're engaging in conscious consumerism. So that's socially responsible spending and investing, and it's reflecting your values as a human, right? Like I um, have a certain value, as Andrea mentioned before. Like maybe you want to save money to buy an electric car because that's important to you. um, that will then that conscientious spending, you're spending money, but it aligns with what you also want to do. So the other thing is to shift your mindset and perspective around your finances. So big picture thinking, you want to zoom out before making financial choices, and that um, reflecting on why you want to save money can reduce the effects of stress on financial decisions, and that zooming out about making financial choices can help you support that financial well-being and lessen the effects of stress. Focusing on progress, not perfection. You don't need to constantly be beating yourself up about past purchases, right? Like if you're like, I shouldn't have bought that, okay, use that as a learning experience instead of constantly talking down to yourself and putting that extra stress on yourself. And then making important decisions under low stress. So, if you know that you're going to have some big financial decisions coming up, make sure that you map out when you want to make those decisions. So, not for sometimes we don't have that luxury given what happens, but sometimes we do. So, for example, um, if I know that I need a new car, but I don't need one this instant. My car is still working. I'd be like, all right, well, this is a really busy time right now for me at work. So this is not the time that I need to research and come up with a plan for how to buy my car. May is a lot calmer at work. So I'm going to plan to look at cars and come up with a plan in May as opposed to right now in April. Um, so for those types of things that you could plan ahead and pick times that are lower stress will help as well. So find pleasure in saving. I know that may sound crazy to you because you're like, I want to buy what I want. However, if you focus more on how much your balances in your account are growing, that's immediate feedback that you could say, oh, look at how much I added to my checking account in the past month. And if you set personally meaningful financial goals, that can overshadow your spending. And that personally meaningful financial goals is key, because if you're just like, well, I just want to save $200, but why, right? Like what is your why to do that? Make your financial health a top priority. That will help reduce financial stress. And then over time, saving has been proven that it will help excite your brain's pleasure center and give you a sense of accomplishment. So many people, myself included, need help doing this. So, in this survey, the American Institute of Stress published in 2023, 50% of survey participants say they needed help in learning how to manage stress, and 42% say that their coworkers need help as well. So you are not alone in feeling this way and being overwhelmed by financial decisions and financial stress. You do also need to know when may be a good time to seek financial help. So there are things called financial therapists, and those are professionals that are equipped to address financial challenges while attending to your emotional, psychological, behavioral, and relationship hurdles. Then there's also mental health support, so referrals for mental health support if financial stress leads to significant anxiety or depression. Mental health support can help. So, proactive self-regulation. How can you help be proactive for yourself? So, first would be breaking unhealthy habits. Discover how these self regulation strategies can be effective in breaking those unhealthy habits associated with financial stress. So, concretely acknowledge stress triggers, identify what leads to stress is the first step in changing that behavior. Um, Replacing bad habits with meaningful new habits that you enjoy. Um, that's intentionally choosing those new habits can help you self-regulate. Um, find the reward in new habits, so focus on your positive outcomes of the healthier habits. Set limits or goals and track your progress. So, for example, creating a spending plan and monitoring your progress can help control those spending habits. You can also set limits or goals from abstaining from bad financial habits. Shop online strategically. So make sure that you're reviewing your online shopping carts before purchasing. That will help you reduce impulse spending. Um, a lot of times with online shopping, it's very easy to just keep adding things to cart. You forget what you put in there, etc., and then you check out. You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to buy all that. But if you take a second to review, that can also help. There's also behavioral economic strategies like to, to utilize different techniques to shift your habits. And then I know Andrea has kind of touched on this before about the YouTube channel, but we do have some other tools and techniques for setting limits on spending that you could go on our YouTube channel and watch. One of them is your financial tool chest. Another is leveraging fintech. So, and there's also some articles that I believe are in the chat. All right. So, in summary, today we talked about the truth is all of us are managing different levels of trauma and stress, and bad habits are used as a coping mechanism to gain back control. By self-medicating through those bad habits, that can make worse your financial stress. And if you recognize those bad habits for what they are and you work to swap them with productive habits, that can help relieve some of that stress for you.
All right, so we are moving quickly and at a good pace today. If you can take our post webinar survey that Quibena just dropped in the chat, that'd be really helpful. Give us some feedback on how to improve our upcoming webinars and plan for next year. Our next webinar is Money and Happiness. We talked about stages of change last month. This month, right now, we're talking about financial stress. And now we're going to talk about money and happiness in May. It's going to be great. So if you haven't registered for that already, we can drop the registration URL in the chat. You can watch our previous webinars on YouTube as well. The IL Student Money channel hosts all of our webinar recordings once they've been captioned and appropriately edited for accessibility. We have lots of collaborators on the Get Savvy webinar series, and we want to thank all of those collaborators for all their hard work throughout the academic year. on these webinars, and we're going to stick around for questions. I know some of you need to go places and get some lunch, but if you do have any questions, we will answer them. There's also a Q&A feature, so if you don't want to ask publicly, you can ask in the QA feature anonymously. And I'll open that up just in case. Nobody's asked yet, but that's okay. We'll stick around for a few minutes. If you can't think of any questions right now, that's okay. If you think of them later, you can email studentmoney@uillinois.edu and we'll do our best to get you an answer. Hopefully, this provided both some awareness around what influences our decisions. We don't always have control over the options that are put in front of us or how we have to react to things, but we can acknowledge ways to improve our financial decision making and recover from the shame we might feel around uh, financial decisions that we've made in the past. We did get an anonymous question. Do you have resources for how to stop compulsive gambling? We actually talked a lot about that in the Stages of Change webinar that we did uh, last month. Um, Kwabena, can you find the resources, the link sheet for last month's webinar and pull the link for the gambling addiction services that are available for Illinois residents? So the state of Illinois has an actual program to help with problematic gambling, and we can put that in the chat once Kwabena finds it for us. It might take Kwabena a little bit. This is a surprise task. Thank you, Kwabena.
You're welcome, Andrea.
All right, I'll look up if there's any other questions. We also shared in the chat a lot of resources that were specific to financial education, right? Once you learn more about how finances work and that we're not all alone in our financial behaviors, it can help you feel more confident in your finances too, which is a big consequence of financial stress. Is a lot of people lose their confidence around finances, or it makes it hard to build confidence. I think one thing that we didn't talk about quite as much is that our capacity to restrict impulses can wane over time throughout the day. Decision fatigue is real, and the more high stress decisions you make throughout the day, the more likely you are to make bad decisions later in the day. And we want to acknowledge that as well. All right. Does UIS or U of I provide any financial advisors to learn about investing in a healthy way? No, it is actually against university policy to provide financial advice. However, the Student Money Management Center has a lot of resources on investing education so that you can have the knowledge to choose a financial professional yourself or choose financial investing tools in a way that is healthy and uh, helpful to students as well as really anyone that is looking at investing. Because, like I said earlier, investing is the only way to combat inflation. But the best bet for investing strategy is to start young and invest for the long term to reduce a lot of the volatility risks related to the market. Right. Is there an app or program that offers a good way to really track your accounts? There are a lot of apps and programs out there. We used to suggest using Mint, but Mint no longer exists in the same way, at least that it used to. Mint was bought out by Nikki. Do you remember? Was it Credit Karma that bought
I
Mint, or vice versa?
honestly, I don't remember. In a time of my brain that I don't remember. I'm sorry.
So I think what's challenging with the apps now is that they all have kind of a different flavor. They all have different risks. You could pay for a subscription um, for one, and end up hating it. The best, I don't want to say advice. The best option that I can have you look at that's free is look at your banking app or your financial institution and see if they have budgeting software or features already built into the app. If you're looking for an aggregator that aggregates all of your accounts, our Budget Hacks webinar went over lots of examples and we tried to align them based on the budget strategy that they were emphasizing. So that might be a good place to start if you're looking for an app or a program to track your expenses. I think that when Mint went away, we kind of were lost for a while. So things to pay attention to when you're looking for expense tracking tools is if it's using financial aggregation where you connect your actual accounts or cards, it needs to have bank level security. So you need to do some research on that. Um, if you want to share your expense tracking with another entity, you need to see if you can have multiple people access the same account information or if you can share it that way. Um, Also, the cost is important. Obviously, we have different access to financial resources. So, looking at what the overall cost is for an app is good. Some of them will allow you to try it out for like 7 days or a month or 3 months. But that might give you a good idea of trying one for a little while. I used to use Mint and I ended up using like 3 or 4 different ones before I landed on one that I liked that I could use with my partner. Um, I will not s- give an opinion on specific tools. So, those of you asking me privately for them, I can't really talk about them. I can't give advice. All right, we have another question. What advice do you have for people that have mental health disorders like bipolar that may have a harder time controlling spending during times when mental health is low? That is an excellent question. Kimber Beckler and I did a podcast episode that was launched, was it last week? I think it was last week on neurodiversity and financial strategies. And we talked about a few different things to put into place to help with overcoming certain types of impulse control issues. They're not replacements for mental health treatment, though. I do want to emphasize that. Um, so I also know that unfortunately we live in a society where mental access to mental health resources is largely dependent on employment. And if you suffer from something like bipolar or other types of impulse control neurodiversities, it can impact your ability to maintain employment as well. And I do want to acknowledge that is an unfortunate situation that we have. Luckily, there are a lot of public health programs in Illinois to help with mental health issues and help with stabilization. So hopefully that will also help. Um, there's another question. If someone you know has overspending habits and they refuse to acknowledge it, but they ask money from you when they need it, which causes you even more stress financially, how do you respond to this? This is very difficult. I think a lot of people have trouble setting boundaries with others, especially if you're recognizing this could be overspending habits, it could be bad habits related to addiction. Um, and it's hard to say no to the people that we care about. um, but if you do continue to give out money and it stresses you out, you got to figure out what is your limit or how are you going to handle saying no. um, and what are you willing to do with the consequences of you setting boundaries with that person. So I worked in addiction treatment before working in financial education. And some people would enable addictions to continue by continuing to give money to their loved ones. And it was hard for them to set boundaries and say no. But as long as they continued providing that enabling behavior of providing money, the person never got better. The addiction never got better. And so if it's hard for you, think about what boundaries are going to be most helpful for my friend or family member, um, that I can remind myself this is going to help them. And you gotta think about what is best for you. If you are getting financial stress from handing out money or loaning money, you do need to find a time or a place or space to prioritize your self-care. And sometimes the self-care is saying no to others. And that's hard to do. I do want to acknowledge that's hard to do. And so maybe you look for support from other people that are like-minded. Maybe you find someone who's an unbiased outsider to the relationship where you can ask like, how would you handle this situation, or am I doing the right thing? Because essentially we need external reinforcement when we are iffy on a behavior to increase our confidence. Hopefully that's helpful. Are you getting any private questions, Nikki?
I do not
Okay.
believe I am.
Okay. Bobena, did you get any private messages?
No, Andrea.
Okay. We got a lot of really, really great questions. And unfortunately, there's no a one size fits all response to all of them, but hopefully we provided enough context in my response to help. Nikki, do you have anything to say? I think I just ran through as many as possible of the questions I was getting.
No, I thank you all for your questions. I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And sorry I can't be super specific on like um what type of tool or what app or program to use. But we have a lot of resources on how to figure out what features are best when you're choosing a financial tool or an expense tracking app, or how to hire a financial advisor or financial planner. And hopefully, those help everyone. Thank you, everyone. Again, if you have questions, you can email them to studentmoney@uillinois.edu. But I'll let you go to your next thing. Have a great and wonderful afternoon.